This is the WTFBach podcast.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Evan Chinner's here, WTFBach. Have you seen those videos of the Mandelbrot set? Do you go down late-night YouTube rabbit holes of Japanese woodworking, cooking, black holes, or math videos? No, is that just my personal algorithm? Oh well, check out a video on the Mandelbrot set. I will put a link in the episode description. It's a fascinating mathematical phenomenon. It is a fractal. And I guess the thing about fractals is that no matter how far you zoom in on the fractal, you always see similar shapes appearing. And sometimes Bach is like that. One fugue in particular reminds me of a fractal. That is the seventh fugue from the art of fugue, where the theme, the subject, the tune, the melody, are all moving at three different speeds. So you zoom out, you see these long themes in augmentation floating slowly by. But if you zoom in, you see these tiny ones, same melody, just popping up 3 times as fast. And if we turn our attention to the last 5 bars of these variations on von Himmelhoch that we've been discussing in the previous, I believe, 7 episodes, it's very similar to this. It's like a fractal. It really deserves at least 15, 20 minutes of our attention, and I'm going to unpack this Bachian fractal today, and this episode will be only about 5 bars. So let's check it out.
Join WTFBach as he guides your mind through a contrapuntal journey.
Tune in. Listen, follow along.
You can hear it now on the WTFBach podcast.
So if we're looking at the original print, in which this variation is the finale, Bach has conveniently told us what's going on. He writes diminutio, and 2 bars later, alla stretta. So diminution, the melody is getting faster, twice as fast, and stretto. And I think all my listeners and their roommates know what a stretto is by now. It's a squeezing. One melody won't have time to finish before another one enters. So let's first take a look at the diminution. Bach has just finished his canon at the 9th between the 2 outer voices. Here is the last line. That's an inverted canon at the 9th, the very end of that. And then when the soprano hits this, Bach writes diminution. And it's a 4-voice texture until that point. The pedals are 1 voice and the hands play 3 separate voices. And then at bar 52, where Bach writes diminution, all of a sudden we have a 5-voice texture. 4 voices in the hands and then the pedal. So Bach is beginning to widen from 3 voices in the hands to 4. And he'll widen even further towards the finale of this variation. And the voices in the hands take their turn one after the other, saying ba-de-do-de-do-do-do-do. So it starts like this, in the tenor, and then the bass, and the soprano. And of course, Bach can't help himself but put one of the voices upside down, so the alto says, and so we have this. And that would be the diminution. Meanwhile, the pedals are underneath all of this, singing out the very last line of the Christmas melody, which is that descending scale. So now I will put all those parts together. This slow last line of the Christmas melody, and the diminution. And it will sound like this. So I think that's so cool, that demonstration right there. And those are just the structural parts. You hear 4 voices singing the head of the tune, a 5th voice singing a different part of the tune at a different speed. And you know what's amazing about this is that those are the easy parts to write. You know, it was most difficult for me because they give you this sort of composition in university or whatever. They say, I want you to write a fugue. It's very easy to put in the theme when it comes and sort of structure things around that. But the decision about those notes, what kind of melodies, what sort of shapes are you writing when you're not playing the theme or a structural part? So now I'm going to fill in everything there. You'll hear those 2 bars exactly again, but now all the notes will be filled in. You can hear how Bach really embeds these jewels, the diamonds in the rough. Here it is. That's so cool. And we have to hear that again, because there are yet 3 more bars to come. And how is Bach going to top that? I mean, we just heard 4 voices in the hands, and one of them coming in inversion, and the pedals singing a different part of the tune slower than all the rest. How is Bach going to top that? Let's hear that again, the diminution part. Right, so that's 2 bars. That's pretty cool, because that's a lot of music packed into just those 2 bars. And it keeps getting cooler, because the last 3 bars of our study are the alla stretta, the stretto part, where Bach squishes all the different parts of the church melody together, and he signs his name. So let's begin slowly by refreshing the tune. It is Von Himmel hoch da komm ich her. I guess I might as well play all the harmony with it. And I'll sing the German if you don't mind. Von Himmel hoch da komm ich her. Second phrase. Ich bring ich gute neue Meer. Third phrase. Der guten Meer bring ich so viel. Finally, davon ich sing und sagen will. Right now, I just won't try to get that low C today, but here is, without me singing now, thank goodness, here are the 4 phrases briefly separated by a fermata. Try and keep in mind just the shape of the melody in the top. Okay, so Bach is going to stretto all 4 parts of that tune. Now, how does this work? Well, it's easy enough to hear at least the first 2. The head of the tune is probably as familiar to you as the back of your hand, and it comes in stretto with the second part of the tune like this. Do you hear that? I mean, for me, that is really cool to see that Bach not only sees, a million ways to put the melody in canon, to use the melody as a structuring device, but he can now squish the tune, he can sort of slice the tune up so that it doesn't even matter which part is beginning where, and they make this beautiful harmony. Here it is again. Okay, so I believe that's easy enough to hear. The second part of the tune will come in stretto with the third part of the tune like this. And if you're wondering, well, that sounds odd. It sounds like the third part of the phrase is a bit slower. You're correct, because not only is the third part in stretto, it's an augmentation as well. And in fact, Bach has put in a few added chromaticisms to spice up the texture, because we're at the very end of this composition, and there's a chromatic intensification. Here are the second and third phrases in stretto. So this chromatic line will be in the very last bar, and it will actually form part of Bach's signature, him spelling out B-A-C-H. The final line, this that very last part of the church melody will be sung up top, not in 1, but 2 voices in beautiful parallel thirds like this. And it will overlap the third phrase like this. Let's hear that again. I'll actually pan them out into different speakers. So now, if I play all the strettoed voices, we get something that sounds like this. It begins to look still like a fractal. This texture sounds slightly empty. So what Bach also has put in here, as these voices, as these 4 parts of the phrase are overlapping each other, sort of cutting each other off, they can't wait to play their little melody. We still have that that very head of the phrase coming smaller and popping up all over the place like this. Here. So we've actually got 3 times where this inverted, and not inverted, in different voices. Soprano, tenor, bass. You keep zooming out and you keep, oh, wow, there's the head there. Here's the head inverted. There's another appearance of the head of the melody there. And wow, this is the 3rd part of the phrase in augmentation. This is incredible. Meanwhile, this entire thing is taking place. Of course, you just love to play this on the organ over a giant pedal point on the lowest note of the pedal. So I'm going to play all of this over that pedal point. We'll start with all 4 parts of the stretto without these little things in between. And then we'll put in the little fractal bits of the head, and then we will put in all the voices together and discuss the signature. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. You can hear how all 4 parts of the Christmas tune are squished together. Let's hear that again. That is just the 4 parts of the Christmas tune over the pedal drone in the bass. Good, and now we'll hear that with these even quicker fractals sort of appearing, bubbling up in 3 other voices. Yeah, that is pretty cool. That is the finale of the piece. I'm going to do it again now with the pedal point, and I'll switch around the sort of voices, the sounds, so you can maybe listen for a different part of the tune, different part of the fractal. And there you go. Okay, and now, like I did before on the diminution part, there are still a few bits missing, the flesh that is connecting the bones, the structure in there. So now, the last 3 bars, everything will be included, every single note will be played. That's it, yeah. So we'll have to hear that again. Let's hear that right now. In those 3 bars there, that's only 3 bars of music, and we have, within those 3 bars, all 4 parts of the chorale melody, 1 part in augmentation, twice as slow, at least 3 appearances of the head moving twice as fast in diminution, some of them inversion, some of them not. Right, the stretto, everything's squished together. And then, of course, we have Bach's signature. Before I spoil the signature, I just want to read you from friend of the show, Christoph Wolff's book, Bach's Musical Universe, on this last variation, the one that we've been studying in the previous episode and this episode. Quote, "Whereas all canonic parts in variations 1 through 4 consist of free counterpoints, the chorale melody itself is finally subjected to canonic treatment in the last variation, and in a particularly sophisticated manner that has no equivalent elsewhere. In relatively short sequential order, Bach applied canonic imitations at the intervals of a 6th, 3rd, 2nd, and 9th. Intervals that had not been used in the 4 preceding variations." I think I forgot to mention that probably in the study of last episode, that yes, we have canons at the 5th, at the octave, and at the 7th, so then he goes and fills them in. The 5th being, I suppose, the inversion of the 4th, maybe we can say that we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 now. Intervals that had not been used in the 4 preceding variations. Beyond that, variation 5, that's this variation, concludes with a notable intensification of texture over and above the last chorale line in the organ pedal. Here, Bach created a climax in 2 stages. First, in a 5-part texture, with 4 parts expounding the opening chorale phrase in diminution, and then in a 6-part texture, which finally combines all 4 chorale lines in diminution and stretto. A dazzling and masterful conclusion. So where is this signature? Well, it's in here somewhere. I'm going to show you where it is. B-A-C-H is definitely in the very last bar of this variation, and I think it's a bit too coincidentally there to be a coincidence, if I may say so. This chorale prelude, these canonic variations, are last in the collection of what is known as the Great 18 Chorale Preludes, the preludes after the Leipzig autograph, and this is typically listed last. This is the end. So when you're flipping through the organ book and you're going through the chorale preludes, this one being last, there you see the signature at the end, B-A-C-H, and yes, I think that's a bit too in your face to be a coincidence. So let's play those last 3 bars again, and I'll play them now twice as slow, and I will make the B-A-C-H louder and see if you can hear it. See if you can listen for it. Did you hear it? No, neither did I. We're going to have to strip things down. Let's just go into that last bar without the pedal point. We'll strip away voice by voice until we start to really hear the signature. Nope, I'm still not hearing it, so I think if you're not either, then we're on the same page. So I'm going to strip away some more voices. There it is, but the tricky thing, I suppose, the trick that I'm trying to get you to hear is that it's between 2 voices. He doesn't play B-A-C-H, he plays B-A in one voice and then C-H in another one. So let's see if we can hear that. I'll slow it down even more and just have the B-A-C-H between the 2 voices. Ah, well, there it is. Okay, there it is. B-A-C-H. But the fact that it's between 2 voices, it's so subtle. See, Bach is never boastful. He doesn't even want to write B-A-C-H in one voice, so he puts them between the 2. And those are really the last notes in each of those voices, because after this, B-A-C-H, we have... And that is the end of the entire piece. Okay, so now I'll stack on a few more voices and see, watch the signature disappear. Watch the signature just vanish. Bach, never over the top, always humble, saying at the very end of these 5 canonic variations, oh yeah, by the way, B-A-C-H, in the very last bar, and somehow it fits exactly, perfectly. It's not a motive. I don't mean to have a dig at my friend Dmitri, but when you listen to Shostakovich's music, it's pretty difficult not to hear D-E-C-A, D-E-C-A, D-Shosti. Here I am, Dmitri. But again, no disrespect to Shostakovich, but Bach is more subtle. We have another signature in this piece, and it in fact occurs in the augmentation canon, which, in the composer's own personal copy, the fair copy of this piece, is the final variation. We're going to discuss that when we discuss the revisions between the augmented canon and the inversion canon in a future episode. Only a few episodes to go discussing Von Himmel hoch. But yeah, that's a different signature. And it's cool in its own way. It too forms a sort of finale. Bach writes B-A-C-H in the quick-moving voice about halfway through the piece in a different area, in a different sort of context, so that it will appear slower toward the finale so that you can hear B-A-C-H a bit more clearly. And like I say, we're going to discuss that in a future episode. But here, just to recap what we've said, these last 5 bars, the stretto and the diminution, the dazzling conclusion, to quote Wolf, let's listen to them a few times, and that will be today's episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the WTFBach podcast. We couldn't make this podcast without the support from listeners like you. The best way to help this podcast along is to become a paid subscriber on Eden's Substack. You'll not only get every episode of the podcast, but detailed notes, occasional writings, and and videos. If you join for as little as $80 a year, you'll be helping us out tremendously. You can also make a one-time donation on Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. All relevant links are found in this episode's description. We also want to hear from you. So if you have an idea, a favorite piece, or a suggestion, give us a shout. Bach at WTFBach.com. We get notes from almost every corner of the globe every week. It makes our days to hear from you. So thank you for listening.